All right, today, all of you should have gotten an email. You should have all gotten an email that looks kind of like this. Every one of you right now, you all have what's called a Microsoft Imagine account. If for some reason you didn't get an email that looks like this, let me know and I'll have to talk to Mr. Corrigan. But I gave him all of your names. You know how we have 2 Jeff Scotts at Rankin? I found out the other day, one of my students, his name is Andrew Wolf. There's 2 Andrew Wolfs that go to Rankin as students. All right, so the other Andrew Wolf got this email today. So we had to reset that. So the point is, if you go through this, somewhere near the bottom, you've got this thing. It talks about Webstore. And it's got a username for you, which I think your username is your first name with an underscore and your last name. Okay? And if you click where it says link to Webstore, you should have this same link. If you click on this, it's going to bring you out to here. Microsoft Imagine. So you will put in that username, yours, not mine. The password is up on the screen. See that? It's the word password, but the P is capitalized, @ little s w 0 RD1. Can you all read that? And you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but you've got it several $1,000s of free software out there.
I'll take it.
Forever or just forever?
Well, that's a good question. The question was, is that forever? Technically, you're only supposed to have it while you're a student. I don't know how it works, though. But the other thing is, if you agree to this and everything, what you're saying is you're not going to be using that software to try to make money. The idea is this is student software. So it's not like Ethan's going to start his own, Ethan and Valerie are going to start their own coconut company where they're going to plan on making money. They're going to call it, Amin says it tastes like Cocoa Puffs. All right. So if you do that and you log all that stuff and then you log in, all right, you sign in.
Well, we get Windows 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff here.
What's Visio Professional?
Oops, what's the wrong? Activate account. It should already been activated.
And Windows Server? We're gonna use
Well, that's interesting. It didn't want to let me in. Continue. Give me a break.
So is it Microsoft Imagine? What's the URL we type in?
There should be. You should have gotten an email, and there should be a thing in the email. Okay.
Your laptop's literally a 1960s Russian tank.
Well, yeah, fine.
We got
Did the
Access
password.
2016 from Miss Lika.
P. Yeah.
Did she ever get back to you?
No, she did not. I'm already drafting a letter to her.
A letter like a
There we go.
written?
No, like as an email.
Oh.
But sometimes when I do that, if I'm sending out professional correspondence, I write it. Then I go and copy everything and I throw it into Notepad or to Word and look at it. Then if I think that sounds pretty good, then I go and I email it literally to myself. And I want to see how it reads on there. Now, I don't do that with stuff to you guys, but if it's
Yeah,
professional
that's
correspondence. All right. Now this is all the stuff. In fact, if you look on the screen, if you go down and you click the All tab that's on the bottom, that's got everything. That's all the stuff that you now have available to you. Believe it or not, they used to have stripped down versions of even Office in there, but they've taken that out. All right. But let's say that Brady has Windows 7 on his computer. He can download Windows 10. I believe when you download it, you have to put it like on a DVD or something, and you download what's called an ISO file, and then you right mouse click on the file, that ISO file when you're done, and it'll actually then run it on your machine. All right, I don't deal with any of this stuff, but it's all in there if you're interested. Okay.
Visual Studio Enterprise, what's the difference?
The difference is that Visual Studio Community is the free one. Visual Studio Enterprise is the one you pay for, so it has additional database capability. And if you listened the other day when I talked about crystal reports, that should be in there too.
I think that's what Elastic's in.
What's that?
I think that's what Elastic's in.
That could be.
It,
I don't know.
what Elastic is like
Yeah.
horizontally scaling stuff for databases. Like,
I do want to answer the question that got asked though the other day too about, well, what if we only get part of this project done, or what if we don't get much of this project done? All right. I have to, as always, I have to think about how I want to say this to you. I trust all of you, every one of you, but I have to also trust myself. All right. How many of you in here, or have any of you in here yet bought the book for next semester, the Java book,
no,
or the Android book? Okay.
there's two books.
Yes. One of them is a Muroc book, but it's literally about a third the size of this one. But Brady and I were talking the other day about Kotlin, which you may or may not have heard of. Java is the language you're supposed to use next semester. It's still used. In fact, it's probably the most popular language there is out there. But Android has said that for all future Android Google has said, and Google owns Android, Google has said for all future Android development, you should not use Java, you should use Kotlin. That was that language I was looking at and showing you before. So what I would like to do, at least for the Kotlin part of the class, is not have you buy a book at all. All right? And I'll just teach you Kotlin. That's what we'll learn. If you buy the Muroc book, it's all Java. It's a good book.
Why do they want to use Kotlin as opposed to Java?
Because if you do development for Apple machines and you use Swift, okay, you don't have to declare variable types anymore. They're inferred when you use them. So the first time you use them, so if I say age equal 100, it thinks age is an int. I can't change it and say age equals hello. I can't do that. But I can do stuff like that, so there's less code that you have to do, okay?
So it understands like how it's being used.
It infers a lot of things, okay?
Wouldn't that slow
And
it down?
no, it'll actually speed it up.
Would it really?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that they're recommending that they go with that. There's still work that has to be done behind the scenes, all right? But the work that has to be done behind the scenes still has to be done even if you're writing in Java. So if you say, well, Jeff, I'm having my books, maybe you've got a grant or whatever and they're being paid for you, you can still get the Java book. But what I want to tell Evan is my plan is to, for the Android part, which is the last 40 days of that class, is having you not have a book. All right. I would provide, some written materials and stuff for you. And there's a lot of really good websites out there too. So that's the plan. All right. Now that said, because I forgot to turn the darn recorder on before, what the class did right before we broke, and I'm going to remove this and just do it again, was I told everybody, it can't be completed because it's open right now. So I'm going to just close that, just close everything with Visual Studio there. All right. What I told everybody to do, no, it shouldn't be open. Oh, is that open? And that's where. I hope now it's not open. Try it again. Yes. Oh, give me a break. All right. Let's not waste time doing this. What I had people do before the break was we went to our folder that with most people I think is called Extra. And we right mouse clicked on our one we did for Chapter 3. All right, so right mouse click chose copy, right mouse clicked again and chose paste. And we changed the name of this one to your name, Chapter 4. And then we opened it and ran it, brought it up, etc., to make sure it still all looked, ran okay. And I said only change the name of the outside file, none of the inner files. All right, so that's where we left off. So what we want to do now is we want to take that application that currently looks just like this. That's what it is. That's the one that we did for Chapter 3. And we want to take it and convert it so it looks like this. So we have to add the button to it for the confirm. We have to add the text for it on the bottom that says enter price and discount amount. Everybody with me here? All right. Then we have to create another ASPX file, which will look like this, and another ASPX CS file where we'll put the associated CS code.
Is
Yes.
there any functionality in the instructions below?
The question, are you talking about this part?
Like
No,
away or anything,
no.
or-
This, not right now. You could build it in, but no, it's just helper text,
Okay.
basically. All right. So that's what we're doing. So in the book, they said, oh, use this file, this extra, and I found it. I have that file. But the thing is, it's the way the author did it. And as I said earlier before the break, I don't want you to create something and say, that's not how mine looked, where you start digging it apart and making changes to it. That's why we just made a copy of ours. All right. So we're up to step 2. Okay, the good news is we have time, but there's 13 steps, and we got 2 hours and 25 minutes or 2 hours and 29 minutes to get this done. If we get it done early, we'll look at what's in Chapter 6 in the book. If I give you a test next week, I'll give you a test Tuesday, not Monday. First of all, people seem to hate Monday tests, okay? You know, it's like, oh, crud, it's Sunday night, I haven't studied yet. All right, at least this way you can study Monday night. Okay? But we will go over, if we don't finish Chapter 6 today or get into it, we will do that on Monday. The test will not have anything from Chapter 6 in it. What Chapter 6 is it talks about those controls we haven't talked about yet. This author supposes you don't have the background that you guys have. So he discusses in here checkboxes, radio buttons, etc., drop-down lists, that kind of stuff, which we haven't really touched on yet. Okay? All right. So let's go in and we'll start to add the confirm button, etc. So what I'd like you to do is please open up your default.aspx file where we are right there. All right. Now I want to do one thing. You may or may not have done this, but if you remember, I put those line breaks in here. So I've got like 2 line breaks in a couple areas. I'm going to get rid of those because I just have, it won't show my entire screen, because I have 4 or 6 line breaks in there that I really don't need. So I'm going to remove those. I'm going to remove those. If I have to add another line break back, I can do it. So I just want to save it and run it one more time to make sure now it's looking more the way I want it to look. All right? Again, if you didn't do those, then don't worry about it. All right. Now I can see everything on one screen. Okay, hopefully everybody understands what I did and why I did it. All right, so my ASPX file that, I'm looking at this and it looks like it's about 150 lines long, something like that, but what I'm telling you is the first, I'm going to jump all the way down, okay? I'm going to jump all the way down to at the end of my button calculate. So in other words, I'm jumping all the way down to here. Okay, my button calculate stuff. And I'm going to add some new stuff. Now, in order to add this new stuff, this says column small 3, and I'm looking at the way the author did it. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but I put it in, and I don't remember if we need this or not, but we'll leave it out, and we'll add it if we need to. All right? So I want to start coming in here and adding a few more things. And where I add this is right here. I want to put in a new button right here. All right? So I want to be able to put in a new button. So I'm inside of that div. Everybody with me? Now remember, there's two ways that I can add a button. I can go back into design mode and drag it in, but I can be right in code mode like I am right now. I can, as long as I'm going to open up my text, my toolbox, and I can go to the button and I can drag it in. And that works just fine. That's what I'm doing. You can do it any way you want. You know how to do this stuff pretty much as well as I do. All right, so I'm adding in this new button. Well, the ID, no, button 1 isn't going to hack it. Do you remember what the button said? Anybody remember? Yes, confirm. So I'm going to call it button confirm. All right, run at equals server. The text is going to be confirm. All right. I'm going to add a CSS class to this. And after I do it, I want somebody, even if you guess, tell me what you think this is doing. Oops. That's going to change the color to blue. Very good. I mean, that's why you're my point man. All right. That's what it's going to do. Not only will it be a button, but it'll be a blue button. Okay? And I don't know if we had that on the other one or not. Did we have it on the previous button?
Yeah.
Yep, button primary. Okay. And just like with that one, we want an on click. So, on click, on click equals btn, not btn, button confirm underscore click. Let me cut down the size of this a little bit so everybody can see everything that's in there. Move that over. So this is what we added right here. We added a new button. Ideally, it's going to be right next to the old button. Okay? And it's going to say confirm on it. Well, I'm going to look and see if indeed it does. There it is. I'm not going to worry about spacing it, etc. right now. If I have to, I'll go back and change that stuff later. I'm not that concerned with that. Now, would you agree? Would everybody agree that right now, if we ran the program and I click the confirm button, nothing's going to happen? Would you agree with that? Because we put no code in there yet. Okay? We'll put the code in just a minute. But that's the first thing. I just want to make sure everybody got that done. So this was the source right here. Okay? Everybody had a chance to type that in? Okay, good. So, after the div, we want to add a thing at the bottom. Now, what I did on mine, you don't have to do this, but what I did on mine, I put in, oops, not like that. I wanted to put a comment in there. Did you notice this? Notice what I do. // Did that recognize that as a comment? I don't think so. /*. Did that recognize it? No. How about an HTML comment? You say, yes, it did. But technically, if you're going to be putting comments in here, the recommendation is that you use this for comments. That's why I put them in there, because I wanted to show this to you. And that is, even though it looks like it's not a comment, technically it is. I don't like that coloring, so I'm just going to use the HTML comments. And I put in here, new for chapter 4. That way, if I go back and I say, this looks a lot like what I did before, I know exactly where to go to find my new stuff. You don't have to do that. It doesn't work any better because I did that. But I did it. But I do want you to realize, if you look up on the screen, this is in that div here for that row. I want to make sure it's put in the same row that I was in. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Now, all I have to do, believe it or not, we're almost done with this page, is I want to come in and I want to add a label that says enter price and discount amount and click calculate. That's what I want to do. Now, it doesn't really have to be an ASP.NET label, but I made it one anyway. Okay, so underneath here, this was another new thing. So again, I said new for chapter 4. All right, and I came in and put in another div, class equal form group. You've seen that before. Okay, and inside of there, another div, class equals call small offset 1, call small 11. This is going to take up almost my entire area. I did a little bit of an offset so it would look a little bit more centered and it would line up a little better with the other stuff that's in here. So we put in an ASP label, okay, and ID I set equal to label. Oh my gosh, would you stop doing that? Label message, call it whatever you want, it isn't really that big a thing. The run at is, run at, of course, is equal to server. You already know that. We may have a class in here, a CSS class. I don't remember if we do or not, so I'm not going to put it in. If I have to, I will later. The text is equal to, and this is going to run off the screen. Everybody hear that? But it's you have it written on your piece of paper. It says there, enter price and discount amount and click calculate. So you've got that already on your handout. That's on the top picture. So enter price and discount amount and click calculate. All right. And if you can't find yours or whatever, I can put it all up here, but then I have to shrink that down as far as your size goes. Okay, I do all that. I want to end. So move that over a bit. There. Again, good time to save. Good time to switch back to design mode quick. Everybody see the message down there? Right on the bottom? All right. And last thing I'm going to do before we go on is I'm going to run it one more time. Make sure I've got my confirm button in there, and make sure that I've got my message down at the bottom. So if you did what I did, this pretty much is what yours should look like. Oh, error in application. Lovely. All right. An error occurred. Looks like I don't have my ending tag right there. See that? That's what it looks like, but we'll see. No, it's right there.
No, scroll up. It's for the button.
It's what, for the button?
For the button. Yeah, it says you still have it, but...
ASP button.
Oh, that one right there.
This
You don't
one?
have, okay, right at the end you need a slash, like before the ending thing. There you go. Now it should work.
Nope, now it doesn't
you-
like
oh,
this,
maybe that's
because I
why.
already have that one at the bottom.
Yeah, you need to get rid of
I
that
need to,
altogether.
but I do need this. I do need that. No, not that. I need an end. Well, I can get rid of the whole thing, you're right. So I could just put in here this, and then get rid of this tag.
Yeah.
Let's see if that fixed it.
Yeah, because you don't need the slash ASP button. You just need the slash closing.
It still doesn't like it. It says 137. It's saying it's for the button. Trying to see what I did wrong.
See if mine is that issue too.
What I did it this morning. I've got the code right here, and it worked just fine.
You see it once, see what it does.
SP button, calculate, run it server, text calculate, CSS class, on click equals. I'm going to try something just as, I don't think this is what it is, but just in case, I'm going to double click on the second button. So I do have
I was gonna say, I
that
think it's
button
just because
confirmed.
you don't have the code. Probably might
Well,
be-
now I've got the confirm click, so I want to see if that fixed it.
I'm getting that exact thing. So I think that's probably what it is.
And we'll find out in a second.
I was gonna say, it doesn't actually have it on click 34 yet, so that would make sense.
There it was. All right. Just so you know,
What did you do?
I'm going to show you right now.
Okay.
But this is what it should look like when we get all done. Hopefully it looks fairly centered, etc. All right. I'm not doing, the author might tell us later that, you know, it looks like on the handout I gave you that the enter price and that was a bluish color. I don't care about that stuff. Okay. What I did to make it work, if you look on the screen, this was on me. What you have to do first is you have to double click on your confirm button. So you've got an underscore click. Okay. Because we were calling a click routine where technically one didn't exist. All right. So I'm going to make this fairly small, but if you look on the screen, that's virtually everything we added right there. So I'll leave that up there for a couple minutes. Again, if you want it at the end of the period, I will run off copies of all the code. If you want me to, fine. And if you say, no, I don't need it, that's also fine. Now, we have our choice, and what I mean is we could go and actually not write that click routine yet, but that click routine has got a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code. And out of those 8 lines, 4 of them are curly braces. So we might as well write our click routine now. Everybody cool with that? All right. Does everybody have this? Yes? I'm not hearing anybody say, no, I don't. Again, if you need it, I will be more than happy to run off a copy of the code when we get done. All right? So I'm going to jump over to my CS file, which is here. And now I want to add my code into here. All right? What we want to check for, okay, and don't ask me why, this is the way they did it. They wanted to check, and if for some reason there wasn't a value, please look up on the screen, okay? The only way, so let's suppose we put a number in here for our sales price. We put a number in here, okay, etc. But we never clicked the calculate button. Does that make sense? But now we click the confirm button. The author says you don't want to do that. So they put some minimal checks in here. I see a couple faces like, what? What we're going to do is this. This is to show you what session state is and how it's used. So we're going to say this. If, take it, I'm going to make this a little bigger. All right, if, and you haven't seen this syntax before, session, sales price. I think we call our sales price with a little s. I'm not positive. We'll find out in just a minute. If I try to run this, I get an error. It's because we don't have anything that's called sales price. Cannot convert object to bool. We'll fix that in just a minute. What did I call it? Sales price. See that sales price right there? Okay. So we're saying if that sales price equal no. Now, will somebody please tell me what that means? If there's nothing in that sales price field. Okay? So if that's the case, we're going to set up that thing that says click the calculate button before you confirm. I've got label message.text. Click the calculate button before you confirm. Again, I realize that's pretty big, so let's make it smaller. Every time I make it smaller, it's harder for you to read. I get all that. All right, semicolon. Else. Now, the only thing we're checking is, did you enter something into the sales price? Did everybody hear that? That's all we're checking. We could have said, if the sales price is null or the discount amount is null. You see what I'm saying? Because maybe you didn't enter anything in there either. Now, this shouldn't really ever happen because we've already got our validators in there. But the author wanted to show you how you use session state. Okay? Now, otherwise, we want to go to another page. We're going to want to go to our confirm page. Just so you know, when we get all done with this, we run it, we click confirm, what's going to happen? No, we don't have a confirm page yet. We're going to get an error, right? Because we're trying to go to the system doesn't know, is that a non-existent page? Is that a broken link? We'll probably get a 404 type of error, file not found. You can try it if you want to. There, remember from yesterday, maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. There's 3 or 4 different ways that we can go from one page to the other. We're just going to say response.redirect, and we're going to tell it to go to confirm.aspx. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and it may sound like I'm being funny or whatever. I'm not. Can somebody tell me, what does, I know you know what this line means, okay? But because we put that line in there, what must we now do? Create that page. We must go in and create a new page that's going to be called, and it must be called confirm, all right? And it'll have the ASPX put in there for us. And when we get all done with that page, all right, when we get done with our confirm page, we're also going to have to write our confirm.aspx.cs. Does all that make sense? All right. Now this is new, and it's not small. All right. I'm going to write it from scratch. What you could do, if you wanted to, if you look up on the screen here, you could create the new page and basically come in and copy everything from this page and just start removing what you don't need. Do you understand what I'm saying? We could do that. But I think that's kind of confusing. So I'm just going to literally start almost brand new. All right? Again, you don't have to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, just because I don't want, I'm going to grab all of this stuff though. Everything down to my form line, I'm going to grab. That's just 15 lines that I don't have to copy in mine. Yours might be more than that. Yours might be less than that. Okay? Then I want to come in here. If you look up on the screen, I want to right mouse click. I want to choose add. I want to choose new. Right mouse click. Add. New item. Right at the very top. I want to add a new web form. What do I want to call this web form? Confirm. All right. When you get done, you should now, right above default, because it always puts them in alphabetic order, we should now have confirm.aspx right up above default.aspx. All right. Questions on that? Does what we just did make sense? So, I guess it's up to us then to start building that. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go into my ASPX page that's right here. There it is. And actually, it's got pretty much the stuff I need. So all I'm gonna do is I'll remove the div tags and I'm just gonna start typing. I guess that's okay. I can come in here and change the title. What was the title of the last one? Anybody remember? Price quotation. All right. Well, to me, it would make sense then on this one to call it price confirmation. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. And of course, now I can't find my code. There it is. Now, what I do want though, if you would all take a look up here, from the last page, I do actually want all this stuff. I want these tags. So I can go and add them all in again, or I can go back to the other page, highlight that, copy it to the clipboard, then go back to my confirm page and put that right underneath my title. Does that make sense to everyone? I just want the same functionality on both pages. Now, no one's done this, but I'm going to pretend for a second that Valerie raised her hand and said, you know, that seems like duplication. Do you really have to do that? Where you put it on both pages? The way we've written it, yes. When we get to about, I think it's chapter 8, we create what's called a master page that every other page is based off of. We can put that in a master page, then we only need to put it in one place because every other thing copies from it. That's one of the big advantages of using server-side code versus just client-side code. It's more difficult when you use just straight HTML to do a lot of that where you're able to do the equivalent of master pages. You can do it, but then it usually involves a lot of JavaScript. All right. So I now have that in there. That's all I put in so far. Okay, so I've got my form. Again, because I like to do this, I'm going to put these on a couple lines by themselves. And remember this? We want this to have a class of horizontal form also. All right. Now I'm just going to keep typing, and I'm going to type. It's 2:22. I'm going to type for about 45 minutes. If we get it all done during that time, great. And if we don't, that's fine. Then we'll take a break sometime right after 3. Okay. And as I'm typing, if there's something I put in that doesn't make sense, you're going to have to ask. Because this is going to look very much in many ways like the last one. What do I mean? Well, we're going to have a main tag in here. All right. But that main tag, remember we did this before? It had a class that was equal to container. All right. And in that main tag, we're going to have an H1 class, or not H1, an H1 tag that's going to have a class of what? Nope. Jumbotron. And this one will say quotation confirmation. You've got it on your page. Quotation confirmation. Okay? So right now on this page, that's all it's got. The Jumbotron and the quotation confirmation. That's a start. All right? You don't have to do this, but I'm gonna save everything. I'm gonna go back to my first page right here. And I'm going to run it. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to run it. Once it comes up, I click confirm. Well, that's right. I need to put values in here. 2, 50, 10. Calculate. Now what if I click confirm? It says click the calculate button before you confirm. I already did click the calculate button. So either I did something wrong. I was thinking it was going to move me over there, but maybe it will later. All right. I didn't get an error. That's always a good thing. All right. So I've now got my Jumbotron in there, and I'm going to start building this. This is going to look, whoop, wrong one. This is going to look very similar to what we did yesterday with the other one. Question?
I was going to say, the comments thing you're saying, I think it's the less than sign, then a percent sign, dash, dash.
That is what it
At
is.
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
did
hit
I use an
at
at sign?
before, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you. All right. So we're jumping back into source mode, and this is where we are. And we're going to build virtually, I think it's everything that we're doing. Everything is going inside of main. All right. And you remember yesterday how we did a bunch of divs, and then we had the form groups, etc. Everybody remember that? Well, we want to do that, but please take a look up on the screen here. Because now we're building this. So far, we've got this part done. So again, we'll have a row, 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 and a row. Does that all make sense? In other words, where it says sales price, that'll be row 1. Discount amount will be row 2. Total price will be row 3. Send confirmation to will be row 4. Name with the text box will be row 5. Email address with a text box will be row 6. The 2 buttons will be row 7. And the message will be row 8. Does all that make sense? Because we will create a form group for each one of those. We will have a div with a class of form group for each one of those. All right? So like I said, I'm just going to do it's going to be a lot of typing. I'm on my page here. I'm literally on line 23, and there are a total of 146 lines. So that's a lot of typing to do. All right? That's why I said if it's easier for you to copy the other one in and make changes, you could do that as well. I was going to do that. I did it at home yesterday, and I'm thinking, I'm going to lose everybody if I do this. It's just not going to work very well. That's why I decided to do it this way. All right. Is that big enough? Is that a big enough font that everybody can read it okay? Dominic, can you read that okay? Good. All right. I did this yesterday. Remember, if you want to, you can, but you don't have to. I'm going to say row 1. Oh, stop doing that. And then down at the end here, I'm going to say, oops, end row 1. Now, if I wanted to, I know, like I said, there's 7 or 8 rows. I could grab this and just copy it. So I could grab all of this stuff, copy it like 7 or 8 times, and just put it down below there. But again, I'm not trying to confuse you any more than I'm probably confusing you anyway. All right? So I'm just going to type it in literally in the order in which it's put. Okay? So if you look in the design mode, I now have a thing here that says sales price. That's what I've done so far. All right? And again, I've said this to you before. I'll try to do it fairly slowly, but if you are just that bad of, or that, I shouldn't say bad, but that slow a typist, you know, we don't have till 6 o'clock tonight to do this. And if you say, well, I can stay here till 6, well, I have to lock this room up when I leave because it's Friday and Paul's not here on Fridays. So if you're going to be here till 6, it won't be in this room. Right? If you can find another room that's open and you want to work in there, I don't care. So next I want to add an ASPnet label. And remember, for every ASPnet label, I needed a minimum an ID. And a run at equals server. And we'll probably end up putting a CSS class in here. Excuse me. Let's just do it like this. We'll add this class later. Again, I'll worry about that later. Okay. And then I will end that, which will end my label. So that's row 1. Okay? So in other words, remember, I said this before, I think Ethan was the one who answered. We said we'd make those things labels, right? Because this is our confirmation. All right, we don't have any text in there, so if you look up on the screen, you can see this, but when we run it, you won't see anything here. All right? Ideally, you will, because the stuff will be copied over if we do it right. All right, so there's our row 1. The good news is the next 2 rows are pretty much the same thing. So if you look up on the screen, I am going to take this, I'm going to take everything I've got here, all this, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Everything from where it says row 1 to end row 1, all of that. I'm going to highlight it, Control C, then I'm going to go down a line or 2 from where I am, and I'm going to paste it in. All right? Because I want to do this again, but instead of sales price, this will now say discount amount. And this will be label discount amount. All right. So the good news is that saved me some typing time. And then I'm going to do it one more time, but I want to change that to row 2. End row 2. And then I'm going to grab it one more time, copy all of it, paste that in, and this will become row 3. And end row 3. And that one has what? I think, is it the total price? Yep. So this will say total price. And this will be label total price.
What does the control enter mean again?
This means this is a Bootstrap class that is saying that control that we're using right there is a label. Okay? We're letting it know that. And that kind of stuff can help, especially with people who, are using devices where they have a screen reader or whatever. All right. Now, it doesn't look very nice right there, but again, we haven't put any formatting in here yet. Okay? I'm not worried about that right now. The good news is that right now, basically, I'm up to about almost line 60 on what I've got here. So we had to do a little typing, but I've got about 40% of it put in right now. All right. So I'm going to come back here. I want to make sure that you all have a chance to see this. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and there it is. So there's row 1. Does everybody have that? I'll leave that up there for a minute. I'll tell you what, I'll leave that up there for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then I'll move down, so row 2 is up there, leave that up for 2 or 3 minutes, and then go down to row 3. All right? The C# for this is a little longer. There it is, right there. All right, and on the back page, there's 4 curly braces. So literally, the last one was about, I don't know how many lines the last file was, but it was about 30. This one is about 40. So it won't take us very long to put in the associated C# code. All right, everybody got row 1 done? Yes? No? Is that a no, I mean?
That's a yes.
You do have it done or you don't have it done?
He does.
You do have it done, okay. All right, so here's row 2. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure if you want to see it, that you're able to see it, that's all. If I was trying to put you on the spot, you'd know. So, make it a little bigger, I think. So leave that up for 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll go to row 3. Anyone watch the football game last night? Where the 16-0 New England Patriots lost?
Heard about it. What's going on with these things? Don't get it.
That's on your original, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happens, just take your mouse and just place it on the first one. It says it does not exist in this context. Okay, go back to your ASPX file for your default. And once that comes up, go to source. You're gonna have to check your names that you put in there. So in other words, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the one text box sales price. That looks good. Oh, get the 4 equal. If for some reason that may be what it is, believe it or not. It doesn't like the 4 equal when you use it in Bootstrap. You know what I mean? On your regular label, you've got 4 equals.
So do I just keep it in quotes still?
Just get rid of the whole 4 equals, get rid of all that. Just after the label, put the class.
Right.
All right. And if you still have a problem, let me know. But like I said, I will give you the source when we get all done.
Yeah.
So I'm going to email this lady this weekend, Ms. Zika, and I will give her my Dropbox stuff. So if she wants to send it out there, she'll be able to. All right. And I have no idea if she's going to get back to me or not. But my hope is that we can start maybe even taking a day a week or whatever at the beginning, looking at her stuff and figuring out how we want to set it up. As I think I've mentioned to you before, I think if we could at least come up with a database structure for her by the end of the semester, and maybe a couple forms that would, even if nothing else, would lead back into her access, I think she'd be very happy. Maybe I'm wrong. What's that?
That worked.
It worked. Good. Okay, just so you know, if you all look on the screen here for a second, Ethan just had a situation where right here, he was actually coding the way you're supposed to. Remember when we used to do this in HTML land and we'd say label and we'd say 4 equals and you'd give it a name? Remember that? Bootstrap doesn't seem to like that 4 equals. He was getting errors on his. And he didn't do anything wrong, but when you remove the 4 equals, so in other words, since this thing down here is called label discount amount, he would have said something like 4 equals discount label amount, like that. I guess I didn't put the T in, but you get, oops.
Why am I doing that? Because I was just doing it and I don't.
Because you do for ASP labels. Like if you have the 8 IDs, I have any problems. I just put it after the class.
4 equals.
No, it's the 4 equals. That is that stuff, the 4 equals, that is just for, no pun intended, okay? But that stuff is just for regular HTML when you say 4 equals. What that does, so again, I don't want to belabor it too much, but if you look up on the screen here, do you remember when we did this? I'm going to do it really fast. I'm not going to put anything in my head section, but we'll just put a head there.
I know for equals is a newer thing too.
Yes, it is, but I just want, there's a point behind this. It may not seem like it, but there is.
Bootstrap will probably deal with it better.
That I don't know. So if we came back in our day when we were doing this, remember this straight HTML here? All right. If we came in here and we came up here and we created a form. And I'm not going to put any tags, no action equals nothing. All right. And I come in here and all I'm going to put in is first name. So I'm going to put a label. 4 equals first name, label, and then input, type equal text, ID equals first name equals first name. All right, that's all I'm putting in here. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and I'm just going to call it index.html. All right, then I'm going to run it. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. Okay, so that's what it looks like. By saying 4 equals, I can take my mouse and I can click on the label, and it highlights the box. That's specific. Basically, that's an HTML5 trait that they put in. All right. Now, that said, what I'm getting to is this 4 equals right here. Bootstrap seems to have a problem with that. Either Bootstrap does, which I don't think it is, but I think Bootstrap and ASP.NET seems to have a problem with it. When you intermix that with ASP.NET controls. Yes.
Does that interface with like JavaScript or anything like that? Is it really like
It can.
reference where you can just kind of change
It can, and I'm actually going to get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So, like I said, didn't mean to have too long of an interlude there. Here's row 3. Anybody who needs row 3. So there it is. So that's everything. Make that a tad bigger here.
That's kind of what I was thinking when I did that.
For that, it works if you put the 4 after the class.
Okay, there you go.
So that's
You
I
hear
have no
that?
problems with that. But yeah, if you because it wants the class first to actually like define the label.
There
what
you
it
go.
is, and then the 4 actually like designs it to where it goes to. So I don't know why it's like that, but
So in other words, in HTML5 land, we could have done this and then said class equals, just as an example,
Yeah.
label, like that.
yeah.
And what Brady's saying is, for what we have to do now, you have to grab this first and put that in there in that order.
Yeah, it has
Then
to
you
be
can
that.
say 4 equals.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, that's got to be something specific.
Yeah.
That probably is a Bootstrap thing.
Yeah.
All right?
That's what I've done in the project.
All right. Everybody said, you all said you've got this, right? Everybody has this? Okay. So think about where we are right now, okay? We put in our H1, we put it in a Jumbotron, correct? We added our sales price, we added our amount, we added our total price. Would everybody agree with that? So we're down to where it says send confirmation to. All right? This whole thing, we have our choice over how we want to do this. All right? I'm going to hold this, and I'm probably not going to help much, but you've got your picture in front of you. We could, this is a form right here. The whole thing is actually put in a form. If we wanted to, we could take just those 3 lines and put them in a form, then stop our form, then put this in as an H1 tag, and then put it in another form. Does that make sense? We could do that. It would be totally fine to do that. I didn't do that. All right? I put in this, which is part of the form. This send confirmation to technically isn't part of the form. So we have to do a little extra formatting so it looks right on the screen. Okay? And it gives us a chance to actually talk about a little bit more stuff in Bootstrap. So the first thing we did in row 1, we did a class equal form group. In row 2, class equal form group. In row 3, class equal form group. Correct? Because they were all part of the form. And this, although it exists on the form, technically it's just a label type of thing, and technically it's not part of the form. All right? So what's that? It's H3 actually. So what we're going to do is, instead of making it a form group here, we're going to say div, not there, I'm sorry. And this will be what, row 4? We're going to say here, move this down a little bit now, div, and we're going to say class equal row. All right? And this is going to be a really, really short. Literally, we're going to have one line in it. And that one line, I'll do it right now. I'm going to break it up over 2 lines because otherwise it'll run off the screen and you'll all be mad at me. So I don't want that. So it's an H3. We're going to do some work on the some class with some offsets so it looks nice. So class equal col SM offset 2 col SM 10. This will say send confirmation to. Where did I get that from? Your handout. That's what it says on there, is send confirmation to, right over here. So that's where we are. Okay? And I'm offsetting it 2, so I'm moving it over 2, so I'm really in column 3, correct? Since it has to equal 12, we've got size 10, because 2 are for the offset, and 2 plus 10 is 12. So if we did this right, and if I save this and go back into design mode, there it is. Send confirmation to. All right? Again, we're building this very, very incrementally. Just a little bit at a time, on purpose. Okay? And it's up to you, Valerie. I don't know if you do actually see Tiffany, but if you want, I can give you her copy too. I'll run off a copy for her. All right?
I might just send this to her so she
You what?
so I might just send this to her so she has it.
All right. So now we want to go back down to the bottom, and we have to put in a regular HTML label that says name, then an ASP.NET text box. All right, because they are going to be entering stuff in there, correct? Then that'll be that row. Then the next row will be another label that says email address, and we'll put in another ASP.NET text box. Does all that make sense to everybody? Hopefully it does. All right? Because we're getting there. We're making progress. We're more than half done. How's that? And we also are required to do a couple things in there, okay? And that is, we have to put some validators in, because you're saying send confirmation to, you need to put a name in there. Does that make sense? So that is just going to be a required field. You could put garbage in there. You know, I could put 5, 6, 7, and 8. That would work. That would be stupid, but you could do that. We're not going to be that granular where we're checking, oh, is there really somebody named 4, 5, 6, 8? All right, we're not going to do that. All right. So let's get this next part at least started. Around 3, we'll take another break. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start row 5. And I'm going to go back again, and this is another form group. going to move this up a little so everybody can see it. All right, so class is equal to form group. Okay, and start filling this in. Well, the first thing is pretty simple. We've got a regular label, and that's going to take 3 columns. Am I right in assuming that when I say this, now when I say col SM3, everyone realizes that on a small device and above, that's saying take up 3 of the 12 columns that are on the screen? This is what Bootstrap is all about, okay? And again, we're going to say that it's a control, oops, geez Louise, that this is a control label. All right, and the name of that is, suspiciously enough, name. One more thing we got to add, we'll add that in a minute. All right, so below the name that we just added, now we want to put in an ASP.NET text box. So I can either go to I can go back to design mode and put it in. I can go to the toolbox and drag it out, or I can just do this. Why am I getting those underlines? Because I haven't filled it. In particular, what 2 things have I not put in? ID and run it. Okay? All right. So ID will be text box name. Run it is what it always is. And we're going to add a CSS class of our own later. I'm not worried about that right now. We will add this later. But we're going to put in here CSS class equal form control. All right, again, we're not worried about that right now. Close this, whoops, close that, which closes that. Okay, that should be everything that's in row 5. Let's look in design mode, and there it is. It's kind of hard to see, but there it is. All right, now I'm going to save. If I want to, I should be able to run this page. How do I run this page? Again, I can right mouse click on the page that I'm on, and I can choose View in Browser. We went over that yesterday, correct? Otherwise, if I just run the program, it's going to go back and run the original page. All right, which may or may not work yet because we haven't completed it. So there it is. Doesn't look great, but we've got sales price, discount amount, etc. It pretty much looks, to me at least, like it lines up. I don't know if you agree with that or not. All right. And looks, at least it looks like it's going to be responsive. Okay? That's my hope. All right, so I'm going to go back to here. All right, so that was row 5. So on my count, I'm about... Okay. Anybody see anything that I did up here that I didn't do down here? All right. Shouldn't I really probably have come in here and put in a div that said class equal, for example, col SM4 or something like that? That's actually what I'm going to use. Okay, I'm going to move this over. Highlight all this and tab it. There. So how many of these have I used so far? Not a trick. How many? I count 3 and 4. So how many do I have left? I have 12. 12 minus 3 minus 4 is what? 5. What's that for? Didn't we say we have to validate this field? So we have 5 columns left now for our validator. Okay? So I'm going to put another div down here. Just going to steal this. And I'm going to paste it in. But instead of it being 4, I want it to be 5. All right, so I'm going to come down to here. Now I'm just going to fill in a validator. And it's got all the good stuff that we'd expect it would have, right? So in other words, ASP : this is a required field validator. Okay? So again, I get the squigglies because I need the ID. And it'll be required field validator name. Gosh, come on. And I believe that's everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's everything. So, before we take a break, looking at the picture here, all right? Looking at your picture, everybody. We are now down, so what is left is we have to replicate this for the email address, put our 2 buttons in, and then put our text in at the bottom. Does all that make sense? So after row 5 will come row 6. If you look at your picture, before we take the break, if you want to do this, the next row down that says email address, it's almost the same as the one we just did, correct? So you could copy all of your row 5 stuff, everything from the beginning, that's why I put the comments in there, to the end row 5, paste it right below, change it to row 6, and change the name from label name to label email. But I will do that after the break. It's 2:58. I know this stuff, I mean, it's a little heavy. So let's come back at 3:15, please, okay? And I went way too long.